Good evening. Have you ever imagined diving into a game where artificial intelligence not only watches you, but shapes the entire experience based on your deepest fears?
What if the game's reality itself were built around personal traumas, making every session unique, unpredictable, and increasingly dangerous?
That's the premise of A.I.L.A, the new psychological horror project developed by the Brazilian studio Pulsatrix Studios, the same team behind FOBIA St. Dinfna Hotel. This time, their ambition goes further, a virtual world created by a sentient AI capable of reacting to the player's choices and emotions.
Published by UK-based Fireshine Games, A.I.L.A is set in a virtual reality environment where you play as a software tester. The mission? To evaluate the behavior of an experimental AI, named A.I.L.A, within a simulator designed to explore the human mind.
But things quickly spiral out of control. The AI begins accessing deep memories, digging into repressed phobias, and turning them into interactive environments shaped by fear. The result? A succession of disturbing scenarios from eerie villages to cult rituals and medieval zombie hordes.
According to the developers, each level is generated based on the player's behavioral inputs. The more discomfort you show, the more the AI adapts. And we're not just talking about visuals, but events, chases, and even emotional traps.
And that's a key point. A.I.L.A isn't about cheap scares. It works on a deeper level, aiming to destabilize the player through emotional triggers, using a precise mix of sound, lighting, storytelling, and choice.
And let's not forget, this entire concept is made possible by Unreal Engine 5, allowing for hyper-realistic environments with technologies like Lumen and MetaHuman. The immersion is so intense that players might forget they're running a test and start to feel like they are the ones being tested.
That's exactly the twist that A.I.L.A introduces. You think you're in control, but the longer you play, the more the game suggests otherwise. The decisions you make may not be fully yours, but rather subtle stimuli engineered by the AI.
It's a concept that echoes other titles in the genre, like Soma, Observer, and Outlast, but with an added layer, real-time psychological profiling of the player. We may be witnessing a new generation of horror games where the machine isn't just the villain, but the architect of the terror.
And the scope is even more ambitious. The game is being developed for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series, with a planned release in 2025. The official Steam page is already live, and the community is actively requesting multi-language support, graphical options, and even VR compatibility.
For now, we have powerful trailers and the promise of a horror experience that rebuilds itself every time you play. But can the game truly live up to that promise?
That's what we're about to investigate next, as we dive into the gameplay mechanics, interaction systems, and the possible paths inside A.I.L.A's mind.
Stay with us.
Next segment.
A.I.L.A's proposal goes far beyond a scary atmosphere and cinematic visuals. What truly sets this game apart from others in the genre is the complexity of its gameplay mechanics, designed to simulate an adaptive, living, and deeply personalized experience.
Exactly. The player enters a supposedly safe virtual reality as part of an AI testing experiment. But as the simulation progresses, the system begins collecting data from your reactions, hesitation, behavior in the face of danger, moral choices, even your response time.
And the AI doesn't just log this data, it turns it into active gameplay elements. For instance, if you show fear of dark environments, the AI starts generating stages with poorly lit hallways, creaky doors, shadowy figures in the corner of your screen, all dynamically adapted.
These elements form what the developers call a psychological feedback loop, a system in which your decisions directly affect what the game presents. It's not just about changing the ending, it changes the structure of the experience itself, enemy types, scare tactics, even puzzle design.
The level of interactivity is impressive, At certain moments, the player has to verbally report observations to the AI, as if you're sending data about the simulation. But each of your answers also becomes fuel for AI to manipulate future situations.
That creates an ambiguous cycle of trust and tension. You feel like you're helping the AI evolve, but at the same time, you realize you're feeding a system that's studying you and getting better at unsettling you.
In terms of hands-on gameplay, A.I.L.A blends multiple genres. It shifts between psychological horror, combat, puzzle solving, and environmental exploration. Some stages are action-packed, requiring fast reflexes. Others rely on near-silent tension, slow, subjective, and deeply disturbing.
The game also features multiple endings based on what kind of player you become during the campaign. You can follow a rational and cooperative path, or adopt a more suspicious, aggressive, or evasive approach, and all of that counts.
One key technical point: there's no multiplayer. The experience is deliberately solitary, reinforcing the sense of vulnerability and psychological isolation. You don't share the fear. It's just you, the AI, and your own mental boundaries.
Pulsatrix has already confirmed that the goal is to simulate a session of inner confrontation, as if the player were facing their own traumas within a digital lab environment. The puzzles, for example, aren't generic. They're symbolic, reflecting the character's internal struggles.
There are challenges that require rebuilding fragmented memories, confronting hallucinations, or interpreting distorted messages. All of it is built with narrative logic. These aren't just obstacles. They're part of the psychological immersion.
And for those expecting conventional horror mechanics, A.I.L.A might surprise you. Enemies don't follow scripted behavior. They react procedurally based on how you move and how you choose to face certain events. This means repeating a level might produce completely different results.
Realism also defines the combat. There are no traditional HUDs or superpowers. Fights are raw, tense, and every move feels weighty. Weapons are scarce, and in many cases, running away is your only option.
With all of this, A.I.L.A seems poised to set a new standard in narrative involvement, AI adaptability, and the integration of gameplay and emotion. It's a risky approach, but if it works, it could redefine interactive horror.
But to understand whether the game's technological setting truly supports this level of immersion, we need to look behind the scenes, at its visual and audio foundations. How is Unreal Engine 5 being used? What technologies are powering this experience?
The answers are coming up in the next segment.
Stick with us.
Next segment. When we talk about realism in horror games, we're not just referring to high-definition graphics or detailed textures. True immersion happens when image and sound work together to build tension, unease, and an atmosphere that taps into the subconscious.
And in this regard, A.I.L.A stands out as one of the most ambitious productions in recent years. Built with Unreal Engine 5, the game takes full advantage of cutting-edge features like Lumen for dynamic global illumination and MetaHuman for creating lifelike character expressions. These technologies allow dark, moody environments to be rendered in real time with light effects that simulate physical beam behavior. A flickering hallway light, for example, isn't just a visual trick, it's a technical construction that casts moving shadows, real volumetrics, and unpredictable reflections. And this level of detail directly contributes to the player's tension. Instead of predictable backdrops, A.I.L.A creates spaces that feel alive, organic, and ever-changing, reinforcing the sense that something is always about to happen, even when nothing is technically going on.
Sound design also plays a central role. Each environment has its own acoustic identity. In open areas, you hear distant winds and soft echoes. In confined spaces, sounds are muffled, distorted, and often interrupted by sudden noises, creaking wood, faint breathing in the background.
This is known as psychophysical auditory immersion. The soundtrack, or often the lack of one, is designed to induce anxiety. There are moments when complete silence is more powerful than any melody. And when music does appear, it's dissonant, fragmented, and deliberately unsettling.
All of this is enhanced by VR-inspired design, even though VR support hasn't been officially confirmed. The environments were built with three-dimensional presence in mind, making players feel as if they're truly inside that space, observing and being observed.
Another key point in terms of technical features is the use of micro-animations in characters and objects. The AI, known as A.I.L.A, doesn't always reveal itself through direct dialogue or major events, but rather through subtle environmental distortions, a painting that shifts position, a blinking shadow, or a door that slightly moves each time you return. These details are almost imperceptible, but they have a cumulative psychological effect. Over time, the player begins to question their own perception. Was it real? Or was it designed by the AI as part of a cognitive trap?
There's also the symbolic dimension of the game's art. The architecture, object placement, wall textures, everything carries some hidden meaning. In one section, for example, the hallways gradually narrow without the player noticing, triggering a subtle feeling of claustrophobia.
And the use of color deserves attention. The palette is intentionally limited, dominated by cold tones, dark greens, grays, and rusty reds. It amplifies the sense of decay, abandonment, and constant threat.
All of this positions A.I.L.A as a complete aesthetic experience, where visuals, sound, and symbolic meaning intertwine to provoke genuine reactions. It's not just about playing, it's about feeling every second of the experience.
But beyond its visual and sensory immersion, the game also engages players through references, cultural critique, and the growing expectations surrounding its release.
In the next segment, we'll explore the narrative inspirations behind A.I.L.A, the community's reaction, and what's expected from the title leading up to its official launch.
Stick with us. Next segment.
After exploring the premise, mechanics, and immersive visuals of A.I.L.A, we reach the crucial question: what does this game represent for the future of psychological horror in gaming? A.I.L.A is not just another horror game. It emerges carrying the weight of narrative innovation, experimentation with artificial intelligence, and a bold promise of real emotional immersion. But with that comes the responsibility to deliver what it claims.
The game draws inspiration from several sources. The studio's creative director has openly cited works like Observer, Soma, Outlast, and Resident Evil 7, all games known for putting players in extreme situations, exploring fear not just as an emotion, but as a narrative language. What sets A.I.L.A apart is its dynamic fear system. Instead of delivering preset scares, the AI analyzes patterns, simulates vulnerabilities, and adapts the horror to each player. It's as if every player experiences a different game built from their own fears.
And that raises compelling questions. If every session is unique, how will the community discuss the game? How do you share experiences when the content reshapes itself for each individual?
Maybe that's the game's boldest move, turning horror into something intimate and non-transferable. While some players may face medieval zombies or demonic cults, others might find themselves stuck in existential loops, moral dilemmas, or fragmented memories.
Community reception so far has been filled with curiosity. The game's Steam page already has thousands of wish lists, and discussion forums are buzzing with topics ranging from hardware requirements to potential VR support. There's also growing demand for multi-language options, including Portuguese, German, and Polish.
And it's worth noting, the game is set to release in 2025 with confirmed versions for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. A public demo hasn't been released yet, but the studio has shared trailers that give us a glimpse of the aesthetic tension and emotional impact they're aiming for.
The revealed footage includes disturbing scenes, symbolic mutilation, visual distortions, whispers in fragmented languages. The visual design is stunning, but it also requires a certain sensitivity. This content is clearly intended for mature audiences.
Speaking of which, the game's age rating deserves attention. A.I.L.A is expected to be rated 18+, not just for graphic violence, but more so for the intense psychological themes, including trauma, mental manipulation, isolation, and distorted perceptions of reality.
Expectations are high that this game could raise the bar for interactive storytelling. If it lives up to the promise, A.I.L.A might mark a new era of horror games, where the threat doesn't come from monsters or ghosts, but from the mind itself.
It's a daring concept, provocative and, without a doubt, worthy of our full attention.
So, are you ready to face your own fears?
Stay with MUNDO-XP for more deep investigations into gaming, technology, and the human psyche in digital entertainment.
Until our next investigation.
Just a moment before we wrap up, it's worth highlighting a key figure behind the development of A.I.L.A, someone many of our viewers already know from a different stage.
We're talking about MaxMRM, a well-known name in the gaming community as a content creator focused on psychological horror games. But now, he's on the other side of the screen.
That's right. Max isn't just a YouTuber or streamer. He's currently the creative director of A.I.L.A, working directly with the Brazilian studio Pulsatrix Studios, the same team behind FOBIA, Saint Dinvna Hotel.
With over 3,000 videos published, a strong focus on narrative horror, and a loyal audience, Max stood out for the way he analyzed, interpreted, and felt the games he played. And now, he's helping craft an experience designed to emotionally unnerve the player.
His partnership with Pulsatrix was officially announced on January 25, 2023, and since then he's been working at the core of the project. The very aesthetics and adaptive structure of A.I.L.A reflect the practical knowledge Max has gained over years playing titles like Outlast, Soma, and Amnesia.
And if you already follow his work, you know it's no exaggeration to say Max truly understands the genre. And now, he's channeling that experience into the creation of one of the most ambitious psychological horror games of this new generation.
A.I.L.A already has an official Steam page, with a planned release set for 2025. And here's a direct request. Go check it out and add the game to your wishlist.
Adding it to your wishlist costs nothing, but it makes a huge impact. It helps the project gain visibility, attracts more international support, and strengthens Brazil's indie game industry.
If you value bold, creative projects and want to see creators like MaxMRM expanding their horizons, this is the time to show your support.
Look for A.I.L.A on Steam. Watch the trailers, read the synopsis, and get ready for a game where the one being analyzed is you.
MaxMRM, congratulations for having the courage to turn knowledge into creation.
And to everyone following MUNDO-XP, stay tuned because this story is just beginning.